Hey, welcome back to the Realm of History. Tonight we got chapter 14 live review. Let's get right into it. Let's get into the live agenda tonight. What we're going to be doing, of course, is we got some key advice, as always, the most important part. Number two, we're going to go over some of the key terms and figures. Number three, I've got some really critical AP advice for you. And number four, we got a question and answer session. If you watch the intro, yes, we'd love to have you for St. Mary's Track. As you know, I'm the head girls coach. And so one of the things that I'm looking for are just good people. I don't care how athletic you are. I don't care if you win races or not, but I just want to be surrounded by good kids that want to work hard, that want to get in shape, that want to have a little bit of fun, that want to make some friends. So if you're interested in that, hey, come and see me. Let's get you on the books. Check in with me in the comments. Let me know that you're here if you can. I look forward to checking those. And I hope that everybody's having a great night. Let's get into what we're going to be doing. So key advice, key terms, key figures, AP advice. I got some important tips for you, and then some question and answer session at the end. Let's get into the key advice. Hey, you know that these quiz papers are getting harder and harder. I told your parents at conferences that it's not going to go backward. It's going to continue to matriculate upward as far as the difficulty level. So you really need to be here now. You need to be on your game. As you guys say, locked in, right? But you got to make sure that you're doing your due diligence and getting ready for these quiz papers. What would I say? Study your notes from the chapter, right? Read through those carefully. We know that this chapter, section 3, was a change up. That's all right. You were required to do the reading. Make sure that you do the reading, right? Doing that reading is extremely important. If you haven't done the reading for section 1, 2, 3, and 4, you definitely need to go back tonight after this session, tomorrow morning, seminar tomorrow, and make sure that you read that information. Okay, next, I say make sure that you complete your review sheet, quiz yourself off of the review sheet to get ready for that. I would also say that for number 2, one big piece of advice is pray for the right things, right? Like, even though the quizzes are getting harder and you're worried about your grade, like this one quiz grade is not more important than some of the struggles that people have, your health and safety. So make sure that you're praying for your health, praying for the health and safety of your families. Remember that we are so blessed. Like, if we're worried about this quiz paper tomorrow, we're doing really good, right? If that's our big worry, we're in great shape. So make sure you say the prayer of gratitude, thanking the good Lord for all the blessings that have been bestowed upon you. And, hey, when you get in your car tomorrow and it starts up and you get safely to school, thank you, Lord. Thank you for blessing me. And if you can do that, you'll become closer to God, and you'll have faith be a priority in your life. Number 3, as I said already, be here now, right? That's our motto. That is the motto of the Realm family. Make sure that you come into the Realm tomorrow, pop in. I've been pretty disappointed the last few days in some of the behaviors, especially in just a few of my classes. It hasn't been much of a focus. So I'm going to make sure that I'm working on getting us back to focus and do my due diligence on that part. But you have to be here now, right? We can't be goofing around thinking about this or that. We got to be here now. That's how to be successful. Number 4, make sure you say thank you to your parents, right? Express your gratitude to them. You wouldn't be in the position that you are without them. So take a moment. If you have to do that right now, if you have to stop what you're doing in this video, go talk to your parents. Make sure that you say thank you and tell them that you love them. And, just make sure you're doing that daily, because as a parent myself, there's a lot of sacrifice that goes into parenting that you probably don't understand yet, which is okay. But just make sure that you're expressing your gratitude before you go to bed. Number 5, listen, I intend to challenge you tomorrow, whether it's on the content part, whether it's on the AP SAQ. I want it to be a challenge. I hope that it is a challenge. If it's not, I'm not doing my best. So I want to make sure that you understand that you need to meet the challenge, though. I know some people are going to be missing. It doesn't mean that everybody else gets the Skipper McGee, right? Don't be a Skipper McGee. Show up, be here now, be on time, be ready to go, right? Don't shy away from the challenge and fake being sick or doing something like that, because understand, if you do that, you're not going to take this quiz until next Tuesday. You're subject to a harder version, possibly version 3, huh? Third hour, huh? You listening? Version 3. So be ready for that and make sure that you show up ready to take the quiz. Okay, now we're going to get into some of the key terms and figures from this chapter. The first one is called simony. This is the practice of selling positions in the church. Now, we talked about how there were some corrupt bishops that the church did not appoint due to the lay investiture process. Some bishops were being appointed by kings and nobles, right? So, simony was this practice of selling positions in the church. Like if you wanted to be a priest, you could buy your way in. Why would you want to be a priest? Well, the tithes that were going on, 10%, all serfs owed 10% of their overall income to the church. Some of these priests who were getting appointed by kings and nobles, they were like, all right, let me pocket some of this. This was not the church causing this. It was a problem the church had to fix, but we don't blame the church for that in essence, because kings and nobles were kind of doing this without the authority of the church. To help stamp out some of these problems, the church put in place what's called the Inquisition. Most prominent in Spain, right? It's a court. It's a church-led court in Spain used to persecute practitioners of other faiths and heretics, right? So it was kind of a violent movement in the church. If you were found guilty of heresy, you would be burned at the stake. We talked about what that was in class. An offshooting ideology of the Inquisition was called the Reconquista. This was an organized effort in Spain to drive the Muslims out. All right, a lot of questions today about the Crusades. Now, I'm going to add the fourth crusade into what I'm talking about here. First, second, third, and fourth. Here's what I want you to know. I'm not going to go through each one right now, but know what was the goal, what was the outcome of each. For example, the first crusade, its goal was to capture the Holy Land, drive the Muslims out. It was a short-term success because they did capture Jerusalem in 1099, right? However, it was short-lived as the Muslims conquered it back rather quickly. If you're looking at the Fourth Crusade, we didn't talk much about the Fourth Crusade. It was an epic failure. The goal was to get back to Constantinople. They ended up the goal was to get back to Jerusalem. They only made it to Constantinople, which was a Christian city, and the Christian Crusaders looted the city of Constantinople. So it was an epic failure, but that was one thing that you want to take into consideration on the subsequent Crusades. Really, the only successful crusade for the Christians was the first. After that, they were pretty much failing efforts. All right, moving on. The next order of business is going to take us into the Magna Carta. The Magna Carta is a key document, right? It's a document that guaranteed basic legal rights to people in England. That's what it's all about. It limits the power of the king. John the Soft Sword was forced to sign it by the nobles, right? And it takes away power from the king, giving individual rights to people, like the right to trial by jury. You can't tax us without giving us representation in government. Things of that nature were important elements of the Magna Carta. A little later, we had Parliament. Parliament is a legislative group or a legislative body made up in medieval England. Okay, so lawmaking is what that's all about. The next term, there were a couple of questions about this today. It's called vernacular. It's the common or everyday language of a local region. So many writers, such as Chaucer, Canterbury Tales, Dante Alighieri, the Dante's Inferno, or the Divine Comedy, use this. So if you lived in England, you spoke and wrote English, Spain, Spanish, France, French, Italy, Italian, right? So those are some of the key vernaculars that people wrote in and spoke during this time. Another one that people had questions about today was the Estates General. This happened in France, okay? The Estates General was a meeting of all three social classes in France. It was called into play for important issues. The three social classes were made up of workers of the church or clergy, nobles/lords, and then commoners. So all three parties or social classes had some say in government at the Estates General meeting. Next is Pope Urban II. When we think about Pope Urban II, he is the one that commissioned the First Crusade. So it's under his authority that the Crusades actually begin. Next is Saladin. Saladin or Saladin was the Muslim leader during the Crusades, right? So in the Third Crusade is his most famous time. He defeats Richard the Lion-Hearted, and this keeps the Europeans out of control of Jerusalem, Muslims regained or continued to control Jerusalem. Next is going to be William the Conqueror. William the Conqueror, we took a look at in section 3. He was the leader of the Normans, or from Normandy, northern France, and he conquered England. He claimed all of England as his personal property. All lords had to swear loyalty to him personally, and he created a strong centralized government. All right, moving on down into the key figures, we have Henry II. Henry II was a famous king of England. He married Eleanor of Aquitaine, which gained him land in France. I'd also like to add that he develops the concept of trial by jury. He sent out royal judges to settle disputes throughout England, and common law was an element of his as well. So I think it's really important to make sure that we have a good understanding of all of those factors about Henry II. Next is John, nicknamed Soft Sword, because of his inability to win battles and being bullied by the nobles in his own country. He was forced to sign the Magna Carta by the English nobles. He was Richard the Lionhearted's brother, and he's one of the sons of Henry, who we just went over, and Eleanor of Aquitaine. He lost many battles and territories to the French, especially the French King Philip II, who we also learned about in this chapter. Having said that, I want to take a look at Eleanor of Aquitaine. She's been a key component in chapter 13 and 14. Why is she so famous? Well, by marrying her, you gained a parcel of land in France called Aquitaine. It's actually a pretty big parcel of land. But she was the wife of Henry II, the Queen of England. She was the mother of 2 English kings, Richard the Lionhearted and John. So she was a pretty big deal during the Middle Ages. Okay, I'm looking at the quiz paper right now, and I'm looking at the SAQ, and I want to give you some advice on this week's SAQ. So this week's SAQ, the prompt or the document is a document. It's actually an excerpt from a German philosopher and theologian named Conrad of Megenberg. Now, doing research on Conrad of Megenberg is probably not going to help you all that much. Here are some things that I strongly suggest and urge you to focus on in your preparation for the SAQ. Number 1, the prompt focuses on 3 things. First, anti-Semitism in Europe, which we learned about. It was mentioned today in Heimler's video. It's also in the AMSCO reading. There's an entire section on it. Number 2, it also incorporates the bubonic plague and how Christian Europeans blamed the Jewish population for the plague. Unwarranted, right? Not justified at all. And then third, it also incorporates urbanization or city building in Europe. I think a key element that we learned about in class that connects to all this is the impact and the effect of the sin of usury, right? This idea that the Catholic Church did not allow Christians to lend money and then charge interest becomes a really big part of this, because what happened is that meant that non-Christians in Europe were going to be the ones who became the bankers and the money lenders, and they got really rich. So the Jewish population, the Muslim population in Europe, they started the first banks. They were the first loan sharks. So they got really powerful and very wealthy, and many Christians persecuted them, hated them because they were jealous of them. And that's really what it's all about. It's not that those groups did anything wrong, but anti-Semitism in Europe sort of stems from that. And that is a major problem that existed today. Okay, so that's something that the SAQ is going to focus in on. All right, I think now I'm going to go to the comments. If you just came on, make sure that you check in with me. Let me know that you're here if you have the ability to do so. And I thank you for being here. I hope that these sessions are helpful for you. But we're going to go to question and answer now. I'm going to go to the comments. All right. Thank you. Thank you for checking in, everybody. Give me a second. You can go ahead and start writing your questions now, and I'll do my best to answer those questions in a timely fashion. Here we go. How should we define the common law? So, common law instituted in England by Henry II is basically a code of laws that had, I would say, authority throughout all of England, through the whole kingdom, even in parts of France that were controlled by the English, like Aquitaine, for example. And under William the Conqueror, hey, how about Normandy, right? So, common law is law that is feasible and works for the entire kingdom. The way that I taught it is being equatable to federal law in the United States, where no matter what state you're in, you have to follow federal law, or federal laws have superseding authority over state and local laws. Got you covered, right there. Okay. Former realm member. Look at that. Wow. Thank you. Appreciate it. It's all fun and games until somebody gets version 3, huh? Third hour? Okay. Next, let's go to right here, Emmy the Shay. What are some events or inventions we should know that helped end the Middle Ages? Oh, wow. What a great question here. So, yes, big one is the longbow. We learned about that in section 4. The longbow is a 6-foot bow where English archers could fire, and it did great damage because what it would do is it could possibly pierce the armor of knights or knock them right off their horse. That's one big invention that would answer your question. Number 2 is the crossbow, which is like a device where you pull it back and then you fire it, and that had extreme torque and physical power, could actually penetrate the armor of a knight or knock him off his horse as well. So those are two big ones that I would say did a big part in ending the Middle Ages. You know, Alfred the Great, okay, so he's on your review sheet. He was really good at defending against the Vikings. Like the Vikings, the Danish Vikings, especially from Denmark, were trying to conquer Europe. So, one of the key things that you need to take into consideration here is that Alfred the Great kept England independent from Viking rule for his time period. And that's a big factor about him. Well, you don't know the question yet. So, it's really hard for me to do that. I don't really want to tell you the question. But urbanization was a process where people were moving into cities. Okay. One thing I would say is that when the plague comes, are cities a place you want to be or not? Most likely not, because if you're living close proximity in a crowded city, the plague is going to spread really fast. So, do people want to stay in cities once they figure out how the plague spreads, or do they want to move out? How does that affect urbanization? Is that urbanization, or is that moving out away from urbanization? Those are some things you might want to think about. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to really tell you how it connects unless you know the question, which you don't. So, a little worried about version 3, huh? Version 3, I can't make version 3 like trick questions. I would never do that. But like if there's a possibility of having 2 or maybe 4 short answer questions, well, that version 3 is going to have 4. You know what I mean? So things of that nature would raise that difficulty level. Yes, essentially, not only between Saladin and Richard Lionheart, but between European Christians and Muslim Turks, right? So yes, the truce basically said, okay, European Christians are welcome to come to the Holy Land and worship freely, but Muslims will stay in control of the territory. That's basically the idea. Which events helped to end the Middle Ages? Well, the Hundred Years' War was one of them. Because the weapons that were used sort of got us out of using knights in battle, right? I think that's a key one. The guild system starts to improve the way that people were paid and the conditions that they worked in. Urbanization, where people tried to escape manors to gain freedom by living in a town or city for over 1 year and a day. All of those things are major happenings that lead us out of the Middle Ages. Gabby the Gabby. Awesome. Outcome of the Council of Constance, you're not going to have to worry about it. I wouldn't focus on that in getting ready for the quiz tomorrow. I mean, yeah, he was not very well liked. He lost a significant amount of territory to the French. And then, yes, he was, kind of bullied into signing the Magna Carta. Signing the Magna Carta was good for the English people. It wasn't good for the power of the king. Well, as I said, because if Christians can't loan money and then charge interest, it led to other groups being able to, like the Jewish population. And so then Christians, I said, got jealous and they became anti-Semitic. So it's a direct relationship. I mean, the goal of the guilds was to basically provide good working conditions for workers in a certain job, like artisans, merchants, craftsmen, craftswomen, right? Textile workers. So they came together, they formed an association of workers that all did the same thing, and then they fought for better pay, better conditions in the workplace, better treatment by the factory owners or the owners of where they were making the items. So that's really the big picture goal. The function and progression talks about the stages of development, starting off as an apprentice, becoming a journeyman, and then ending up as a master, possibly. Not everybody became a master, but that's one of the ultimate goals. For this chapter, Charlie, I mean, obviously, St. Francis is a very big figure, but for this chapter, we want to know that he was the founder of the Franciscan Order of Priests, which were a group of friars that traveled throughout Europe to spread Christian messages as missionaries. The Battle of Hastings was extremely important. This is the battle in which William the Conqueror defeated Harold Godwinson to take over England. So the Battle of Hastings altered English history because now they were being ruled by a French king or a French ruler, basically from northern France. Many English lords lost their land to lords from Normandy, right? And so that changed kind of the feudal system and who they swore allegiances to due to the end of the battle in 1066. So John Wycliffe and Jan Hus, both very, very similar. With Wycliffe, one thing that you want to understand, he's a Christian reformer. He called for more focus on the Bible. And both of these guys say that really the Bible is a more important authority than the Pope or the church. That's what got them in trouble with the church. They were considered heretics, right? And Jan Hus, for example, was burned at the stake due to that. I went over this one a second ago, but the idea is that he starts the order of priests known as the Franciscans, which is a group of friars. So in Anglo-Saxon, these are tribes that the Angles and the Saxons were European tribes that eventually settled in England. And because they mixed and blend in England, they became known as the Anglo-Saxons. So it's really like an early tribal association that set some of the foundations in English history. For example, Alfred the Great was an Anglo-Saxon leader. Okay. So the Anglo-Saxons fought against the Vikings. There was a big rivalry between those groups. But Anglo-Saxons are kind of like a Germanic tribe until they migrate into England and form kind of the early history of English monarchy. That that's what a guild is. I told you to study the chart. I think it's page 388 or 366. It's one of the charts that I mentioned to study. That's what guilds were. In order to be in a guild, you had to go through this progression to make sure that products that the guilds were making were going to be quality products. That's exactly the stages that you went through in a guild. Okay, looks like I've answered all of the questions thus far. If there are any further questions, I'm willing to stay on and answer those. But for right now, if there are any other questions, please ask them at this time. It looks like the volleyball team did win tonight, so we will have a home game tomorrow at 6 p.m. So I would like to do Realm Family Volleyball Night. The only thing is, because it's a state playoff game, right? You have to pay, even though you're a student at St. Mary's, you have to pay the entry fee of $7. So I will give extra credit to anybody who comes. If I, for some reason, can't end up making it, I'll put one of my trustworthy students that tells me that they're going to go. I'll give them my roster and they can check you in. But I should be able to attend the game at 6. So looking forward to that. I do this every year. It's kind of a fun day that we all do as a Realm family, and we support our school. Here's a question. Yeah, so all the charts, any page number that I told you in the notes, like, hey, study page 366, study page 388, those are coming to mind for me. Yes, those are going to be important. No doubt about it. Well, like I say, there's 3 versions this week in this chapter. I had to make a version 3. I think Third Hour knows why. But the version 1, version 2 will vary. I would say there's between, on version 1 and 2, 2 to 3. If you add in version 3, there could be a possibility for 4. Nice try, Master Darius. It might be maybe 3, like version 3 for you. Yeah, something like that, dear Baller. But you're trying to get me to say 6, 7. Gotcha. Sign of weakness. That's banned. So that's another day of crew. That puts you on crew until January 6th, I believe. 37 days now. Sign of weakness. But yeah, the game starts at 6 tomorrow. Yes, Gabby the Gabby. Yes, we're going to do it. We're going to do Realm Family Volleyball Night tomorrow at 6. I'll put an Instagram post on the Realm of History when I get a chance. So you don't need to know their names. That's not what the big idea is, because remember, like, there were 3 popes actually at one time. All of them were like removed out of power, and they reappointed a new singular pope that took control. So just know the story. Like, there were popes that were kind of competing for claims to be the real pope. And so the Catholic Church is like, let's just get rid of all these fake popes and bring in a new pope. And so that's what they do. So I'm not going to quiz you on the names, but understanding that is going to be important. It's just the fact that there were multiple popes claiming to have power, and one was in France, one was in Italy, right? So that was the schism. So it was this big question of who was the real pope. They end up getting rid of all of them, replacing it with a new pope. I think Hastings is the most important one mentioned in this chapter, but then there's also the Battle of Poitiers, the Battle of Crecy in the 100 Years' War. So the battles in the 100 Years' War, I don't think they're going to end up showing up on the quiz. I do have Hastings though on your review sheet. So that would be the one that I would focus on. If they're not on the review sheet, probably not going to be that big of a deal on the quiz. Guilds are very simple. They're just a association of workers in the same field or occupation. So artisans, people who make things by hand, all the artisans were in an association. It's like a labor union, right? So they all band together, and what they do is they say, all right, these are going to be the conditions of work. We're going to work from this hour to this hour. That's the max. Anybody who's an artisan has to get paid a minimum of this. If we don't get what we want, then we're not going to work for these business owners. We'll go independent. And then they had stages of development. They're like, if you want to be an artisan, all right, you got to be an apprentice first. You have to prove that you're worthy of doing quality work as an apprentice. Then you could become a journeyman, which meant that you work for a master and you can actually make money doing this job. And then if you did some great work of artisanship, then you could become a master and own your own business. So that, and this is all in the book. It's all very detailed in the reading. So it's pretty simple stuff. Well, you Skipper McGee today, so I don't think you'd qualify for version 3. Any other real questions, ladies, gentlemen? I appreciate all of you for joining. Hopefully, I was able to answer your questions to the best of my ability, and hopefully you'll be ready to focus in tomorrow for the quiz. Don't be a Skipper McGee, right? Be here now. I already went over the causes of the Great Schism. I said that there were multiple popes claiming to be the real pope. None of them actually were. And so they got rid of all of those popes and replaced them with a new pope. That's all you need to know. Any other questions that I haven't covered yet? What a great question. So it sounds, I don't know if this is the real Bobby Klaus. We call him Bobby Baberto. He's a great coach. I call him Coach Bobby Baberto. But I think the status is Mr. Klaus unfortunately had a problem with gas today in his class. I heard, I don't know if this is true, but I heard he was passing the gas during his lesson. And I feel really bad that that happened. So I hope that he's okay. I'm not exactly sure, but that was kind of the status of what took place. And then for some reason, he blamed me for that. And I felt bad, but he declared war on me. He said that there's a war between, he was saying the math lab or some kind of like sign of weakness name versus the realm. So I guess it comes down to right now, like the realm has to come together. We have a common enemy in this math lab. So we're going to make sure that the realm family sticks together. We're going to have a big realm family get together tomorrow at the volleyball game. I doubt the math lab could even match anything that we would do like that. Everybody who shows up at the game is going to get extra credit. I don't think math lab does that. So I would count it as right now, Langle and the Realm 3, Mr. Bobby Baberto 0. And I have a text message that came from Mr. Klaus that says I'm up 2-0 already. So I think that in this war, since he and his class declared on the realm, being the fact that we're definitely up 2-0, because there were some memes that I put on his door about how his OneNote doesn't really work that well. So I think that we're going to be up 3-0. But I mean, Mr. Klaus is a great teacher. It's just unfortunate that he had a little gas issue today in his class. Not something that I can control. Yes, Realm family needs to stick together, though. All right. Thanks, Mr. Klaus, for joining. I hope that was a good answer to your question. But yeah, the way that I've got it scored is 3-0 right now. Man. Okay. Well, thank you everybody for attending tonight. Hope that it was helpful. Sorry that Mr. Klaus and the math lab has declared war on us, but hey, we talk about this all the time, how the realm is a family and we stick together. We're not going to let anybody get in our way or try to break us down. But we're going to do everything with kindness. Mr. Klaus is a great teacher. His students learn a lot. He does board work. He uses this thing called OneNote. Fantastic system. But as far as declaring war, I don't know why he did that. But hey, we're not going to back down. We always meet challenges, right? We're going to be here now no matter what. And we'll figure it out together. All right. Much love to all of you, my students, and I appreciate you for being here. Have a wonderful night. And hey, hopefully we'll see you tomorrow at Realm Family Volleyball Night. All right. Take it easy. Be here now tomorrow. Don't be a Skipper McGee. God bless.